Right on. Alrighty. So week two in CIT 93, Intro to JavaScript, Intro to Programming. I'm recording this video before the start of the semester because my goal is to release hopefully at least two, maybe three. So that could be one of the things. If you get to week two, or even to the end of week two, probably better, and you're like, I want some more content before the start of the semester, right? Go to Discord and ask me because I'm totally open to doing more content. I may anyway, just because I like to start the semester ahead of you enough to allow you to work ahead whenever possible. Now, having said that, one of the things I want to emphasize at the beginning of this video is that this class, really all my classes are similar in this respect. I do allow students to submit things late. Okay. Now, there is a consequence for submitting things late, which is 25% off. Okay. So try not to get yourself in that situation because, and know it's there. Use it if you need to. Try to stay up ahead. Actually, try to stay on time. But that's the other flip side of this is really try to stay ahead because there's a real benefit to working ahead. The benefit in this case is that I can grade your work. Now, in this case, you'd have to complete all the work. Okay. This semester, coming into spring 2022, I'm delighted to say there are a good number of students in this section. And I've seen this kind of tick up in the last couple of semesters, I think because of the requirement that it meets now for the Fresno State students. We have more web development students and just general students interested in programming. Some of the C-size students that take my Python class sometimes will follow up my Python class with my JavaScript class. So there's various reasons this class may be seeing an increase, but regardless, I'm just grateful that it is. Now, why did I say that? Because knowing that to be true, right, sometimes makes it a little more challenging for me. But here's the general process I want you to know is that each morning I have a schedule. Now, this is when the semester starts. So, as I had said before, this particular video was before that. But when the semester officially starts on January 10th, my schedule, wake up in the morning, and actually, you'll see my schedule when we do week two learn together because that's what I use for my coding example. But in general, I wake up, I have coffee, I meditate, I have a green drink, I go work out, and then I try to get some sun if it's sunny. And then I come back, I sit down, and I grade whatever has been submitted the night before. So, my goal is that for those of you who are working ahead, the benefit is to you if there's something missing in your work, you can always fix that. Okay, so if you fix it, resubmit it, get it regraded before the due date for full points. If you submit it after, then that is discounted. Here's the other thing, and I will end on this one, is that the way I do this is I make things due at midnight, but I actually, if they're there when I wake up the next morning, when I actually sit down to go grade, I don't consider them late. So I just want you to know, starting out, the way things work. Okay, so for this week two attendance, I've already talked about this topic, late and early work. Hopefully you got that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is as we move into the course, doing the next section in three, right? So we're finishing up the last part of section three and then moving on to your first learn together this week. The thing is that I want to just have just get you started early on some good habits, I would say. One of the things I'm going to start using this semester for my style guide for writing JavaScript, which is in line with pretty much everything you're learning in his course. So I just want to make it official though. That way, if there's ever a question, you'll know that when you're writing code for this class, I want it to, and we'll learn this as we go through and I'll show you an example of what I mean by this now. First is, quotes, because in JavaScript, you can use single or double quotes. Semicolons are optional at the end of a line. So I did a little research today because I wanted to kind of update myself on kind of where the industry is around this. And I found this pretty good guide about, it all comes down to personal preference. And then I thought, well, you know what? I've been wanting to do this anyway. So let's go ahead and adopt the Airbnb style guide. Prefers single quotes. Okay, so when you see something in JavaScript being quoted, lean into, get used to using single quotes. Now, what's funny is I use double quotes around single quotes, but okay. And there's what we call linters that can help with this. But for now, and I've given you a link here to the JavaScript style guide for Airbnb. And so if you click into here, you can actually see a lot of things that we're going to cover in this course. But let's just start with variables, right? Which is a lot of what you're going to learn uh, for this particular section, right? So the idea of using const or let. Don't use var for variable declaration. It's always when I see somebody doing that, it's always like, where did you see that code and why are you using var? So don't use var, use const or let. But for the beginning part, we're mostly using let, and then we'll see const later on. Okay. Uh, Group all year together. Oh yeah, see that's also a good one. So I just want you to know this style guide is here. We'll learn more about it as we go through our time together. So in this week, I've already given you the how to use the browser and how to use the live server to see your JavaScript output. And I'm going to add to that this week through both this video and to your week 2 learn together. Okay. So let me just show you what it is. I'll actually push this out to my public repo for GitHub so you can take a look at it. I'm not going to require it, but you're totally welcome to use it for the code along this week, but you will absolutely need it for this second item. So I'll mention that as we get into there. So let me switch over to VS Code real quick. I have my VS Code open. I remember you have 2 repos, right? So for the code along, it's the private repo working in the JavaScript directory. For the public stuff is generally your learn together, which you have your first one this week. This is also where I place the instructions for how to do your code along work. So what I want to do here is I'm actually going to create a new folder and up in this public, and you will be able to see this again out on GitHub once I push it. I'm going to call it demo. Okay. And then under demo, I'm going to create another directory called display on, and I'm just going to call it display actually. And for various reasons, generally folders are lowercase. Okay. So then I have a folder called display. And now in this display folder, I'm going to create a file, an index, and you've seen me do this before, .html, right? I'm going to use an exclamation mark tab to create that basic web page, right? I'm also going to create in this same folder a app.js. Okay, I'll put something in here in a minute. I'll show you that. Back in here, I'm going to do a script. I'm going to do source equals, right, app.js. This is all the stuff you've seen before. Okay, I'm going to add here a div. I'm going to say ID equal output and put nothing in this div. This div does belong in the body. Okay. So at this point, what we're going to do, and I'm going to grab the function that we're going to need in a minute. Okay. But instead of making you look at the console, which by the way, you should get used to the console, it is really good to actually know. You'll see this through this course as well. But it's really good to see your output on a web page because JavaScript is all about client-side browser interfaces. So the sooner we get to the browser, the better. I tend to do this before, not tend to, I do this before Andrew does it in his course, which is totally fine. Okay. So for a minute, let me just grab, based on my work, I'm going to grab this function. Okay. I'm going to come back. I'm going to close this out in my app.js. I'm going to put this here. Okay. Now, as I'm thinking about this, I'm really realizing that up in the private directory, we ended up doing one index and then we pointed to those. So I could actually show you here how to make this work also for your boot camp stuff. But I think I'll do that next week. That way this video doesn't get too long. Okay, so coming back down here. So now what can happen, right? Now that I have all these pieces together, I'm going to go ahead and start my live server. And I'm going to go ahead and fire it up. Maybe that's not the best word, but that's what happens, right? There's nothing that's happened here, either at the console, right? Or anywhere else because I don't have anything happening. Oh, I must have in the index file. Let's go look. I must have actually created. What line was that? Did I have that right? What didn't you like? Must have been something in there it didn't like. Oh well. Sometimes that happens, but it's probably something I just forgot. I don't see anything clearly in here that would indicate I forgot something, but okay. So I'm actually really showing you this. Like if normally we do console.log, right? I'm going to use single quotes, hello world, right? If I come in here, right? And it should be refreshing. What up? All right, I guess I have to troubleshoot this. Hold on. Okay, that was funny. I guess I accidentally typed something different. It should have been app.js, which actually brings up the point that that single quote really applies to your JS, not to your index. In here in HTML, that is standard to be double quotes. We're just agreeing that in JavaScript from here on out, it's single quotes. Okay. So let me just come over here now. Notice that if I go to console, right, it's here. So we know it's printed out. So now what you can do is anywhere you want to print something to the console, we're going to change this to actually call this function. Okay. And so we can, and once we make this change, let me be clear, once you make this change, if for those of you that are running your JS on in Node, it will actually break it. So just get used to at this point, even though it's week 2, show on page, hello world, and then what will happen is it will actually output to the page. And this is the way, again, I'm not going to make you do this for the code along, but for the learn together, this is actually going to be part of your task. And so I'm showing you early, so in case you want to play around with that. Okay. Now let's actually look at, since I've actually talked about it now, right? So I've shown you how to do this. This will be up and I will push this out and you will be able to see it on GitHub in my public repo demo display. Then if you want to grab that function here and see how it's used just in its standard mode, you will see that as well. Okay. So this week, let's talk about this week. So this week, you have your next code along. And this is the videos 15 through 19. Here's your instruction file. I finished it yesterday going through it, right? So make sure, as I've already said and helped you, gave you the instruction on week 1. Just for the video, I'm not going to do a video just for this because I think this instruction stands on its own. Do make sure, right, when you commit your code, you're using the messages I give you. There's several of these are code challenges. Some of them are not. And some of them I don't even require you to commit on those. Okay. But it's such good experience for you to have this week. So what if, now again, I'm not going to make you actually output to the page here, but if you wanted to, let me just show you how you can do that as well. So let me close this for a minute and let me stop the live server. Okay, just because I'm actually going to change it and move over to boot camp. And under the boot camp, we've been pointing to each individual file that you've created. No problem. You can continue to do that. What I could do here is I actually could, in this same directory, create that app.js here, right? And then I could just reach over here, copy this. Okay, go back into here. Now this is, yep, Actually, I got too many files open, which by the way, if you look over here, you will see that these files are the ones that are open. So if you don't see them listed as tabs, you can also just select them here as well. Let me go back over here and paste that in. Cool. Oh, notice how the editor, I'll have to figure out how to change that. The editor itself, the VS Code in my case, is actually wanting quotes, double quotes. I have to check into that. Okay, so let me just finish this while we're here. So now that we're here on the index for, let me just roll this so we don't get confused. So here's a new file that I added, which by the way, this coloring, the U, and you will see this in my example for what your files look like. U is untracked, green U untracked, yellow M is modified, right? So this means I've already been tracking this file. I've just modified it. This means this file is not tracked. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go script tab. I'm going to do source equals, and in this case, I'm going to do app.js. Okay, cool. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and start that go live. Now this is going to go live inside my private repo. I'm going to hit inspect, right? And I bet there's one thing missing. Oh, it is. Nice. And I can already see what it is, so it's good. I'll show you how to fix it. And here's what it was, is that in here, I didn't do that div. I didn't do the ID equal output, and that should fix it. var1, var2. Oh, that's awesome, right? I don't remember doing var2 is already defined. Oh, so in scope, oh yeah, I have to go look. In scope, the last one I wrote there, oh, I did. I was playing around with show on page here already. Oh, that's funny. Oh, you know what? I think, oh yeah, I accidentally did a global. That is so funny. I did a global find and replace, and I didn't realize I was running it all across all those files. So anyway, but I think hopefully you get the idea, right? So now you can again use this if you want for your code along, which I think it's more fun to see things out and output to the browser. But just know as we get to the work, the next item in this week, you'll actually have to use it. So I've given you again the file, the output, and I've given you that little description of, because some of these files we created in the code along for week 1. So now you can see the untracked ones. You can see the modified ones. So this just gives you an idea, but remember what you're submitting when you submit this work is you're submitting the commits, right? So I just want you to remember that. That's part of how I grade it, is that you submit commits in your submission for this. Okay. So the last item for this week, the Thursday night item, I will have a video just for that, and that's the video I will do next. So that if you want to check this out during the break, you can. Have a great one. See you later.